What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Elden Ring. Well, I guess I shouldn't say welcome back to it, because this is mainly just going to be a wrap-up of my experience with Elden Ring, and pretty much, you know, my experience with this is pretty much my first Souls game that I've beaten from beginning to end. I've only played one other one, that's Demon Souls. I played the first level of that game, and I spent 2 hours on the first stage, got to a boss, died, and had to start over from the beginning again. And I dropped the game and dropped anything with Souls in the name ever since. So this is like my actual first Souls experience type game. So what I'm going to do in this video is pretty much explain it in 3 parts. The story as I understand it, my experience in the game, how I feel about it, and my issues with the game. So again, this is my first game. I'm on the outside looking in. So as I understand it, the story, all of this, several things are all happening at once from the way I understand it. But long story short, there's a deity out in deep space called the Greater Will, and for some reason it focuses attention on the lands between, and so it sent an envoy, I guess you could say, in the Elden Beast to the lands between, to which the Elden Beast created the Erd Tree and the Elden Ring. And for some reason that I have no clue, they picked Marika to be the deity of this world. Marika then picks Godfrey to be her consort. Together they have kids, which are, like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Godric, someone named Godwyn, and Renala, the Queen of the Moon. Then for some odd reason, Godfrey leaves, and as he leaves, their children one of their kids is attacked by Ronnie, the witch. One of the children of Marika is killed by Ronnie the witch. And Marika shatters the Elden Ring. For some reason, I don't know what triggered it, but she decided to no longer follow the Greater Will. And she decides to shatter the Elden Ring. But before shattering it, she removed the Death Rune from the Elden Ring. And that is why, as the Tarnished, and a lot of times when you go to the Grace, and you rest at the Grace and you come back, all the enemies have come back, is because at this point they can't die, because the Death Rune has been removed from the Elden Ring. And once it was shattered, Marika vanishes, and her children pretty much fight over the pieces, or the great runes, of the Elden Ring. And that is why you get great runes from Godric and Renala, Radon. And then there's also some from Mikola and Melania. And I have not seen Mikola anywhere, but I did see Melania. Man, that wasn't the most annoying boss fight. The most annoying boss fight I had was the final boss, Radon and the Elden Beast. Mainly because that's the only boss in the game that caused me to respec and use a cheese method to win, which I don't even care. I'm not one of those that are like, yeah, I beat all the bosses regular. I don't care. I use the summons. It doesn't matter to me. But yeah, so after she shatters the ring, her children fight over pretty much power in the lands between. And of course, the two fingers and the finger readers were there to bring about Marika's will, which is no longer the will of the greater will, which was the Golden Order. And so that's why no one trusts the two fingers anymore. That's why Rykard is fighting against the two fingers. Radon didn't comply. Renala locked herself in the academy. And it's because no one really trusts the two fingers anymore. And I guess for good reason, because the two fingers are now following Marika instead of the greater will. But fast forward from all of that, now you are at the beginning of the game where you as a Tarnished, from what I understand, somehow you're connected to Godfrey. In that you're a Tarnished, you're coming back to the lands between to rebuild the Elden Ring and restore the Golden Order that was established by the Greater Will. Not Marika, but that was established by the Greater Will. And ultimately pretty much become Marika's new consort, quote unquote. So that's pretty much the story, as I understand it, of Elden Ring. Now, when it comes down to my issues section, I'll get into some things I feel like were not answered with the story. But that's the story pretty much as I know it. Now, my experience with the game, I had a blast. I have to be honest, I can't lie. There were a lot of bosses that gave me a lot of problems. But when it came to exploring the world of the lands between, I really enjoyed it. And I have to say, the time I enjoyed the most was outside of the main quest. To me, the main story does not make any sense at all. But again, when you consider there was Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, I believe 3, and then you had Bloodborne 1 and 2. And so all of that lore from all of those games are stuff I missed. So I'm guessing the story won't make any sense to me. I feel like it should. I feel like I feel like they should have done something to kind of bridge for new players, but to me, I could not understand the story at all. Aside from, you're the Tarnished, you're not a dung eater, you're not all knowing or whatever they call that guy. You don't have any special traits, you're just a Tarnished without a maiden, which I'm assuming a maiden is someone that you're going to be the consort of once you become the Elden Lord. But since you were without a maiden, and your task is to restore the Golden Order by getting the Elden Ring and becoming the Elden Lord. But all of the story outside of the main quest, to me, was very interesting. Exploring the caves, fighting the sub. And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of the sub-bosses, I feel, should have been main bosses. Because they were challenging in the right way. Now, the main bosses are just straight cheat. They're just straight up cheat. And if you don't find a cheese way to beat them, you're going to be there a while trying to learn all their patterns and stuff. But when I first fought the Crucible Knight, when I first fought the guy with the Hound Blade, all of these bosses, to me, they were in some ways even more challenging than the main quest bosses. But yeah, like I said, my experiences, I enjoyed opening up the map, finding all the ball bearings. A lot of the stuff I found throughout the map, as you saw, my map was pretty much full with all the locations and stuff. I spent, before I got to the final boss, like Radon and them, not Radon, Radagon and Elden Beast, I had probably done about 170 hours. Like right now, I have over 200 hours in the game. And the majority of it, of course, is side questing. And I have to say, like, and again, there was some times like when I had to fight both of those tree knights or whatever you call them on the horseback. That was very annoying. But again, I don't discredit the game for that. To me, if you get annoyed in Elden Ring, it is strictly on the player. So I fault myself for the negative experiences I had with the game. I fault myself because one, I became way too dependent on the blood loss build and the mimic summons. There are some bosses that will, I mean, some of it's on the developer too, because when you find a build that will beat a boss, the developer will patch it out. When I wish I could have experienced the mimic before it was nerfed, because they said the mimic before it was nerfed would use the healing pots, it would use the FP pots, it would use all of your magic, all of your ashes of war. It would use all of that stuff. Pretty much it could solo any boss in the game based on your build. And to me, I feel like it's on the player. You should leave it up to the player if they want to use that to easily beat a boss or not. That's like, to me, that's like telling a player, nerfing the mimic is like if you told a player at the beginning of a game, choose a difficulty, and the only one up there you had was ultra hard. And it's like you have to play it on ultra hard, then you can unlock it on easy if you want, and all of that stuff. No, I think you should leave it up to the player. If they want to use an overpowered mimic or an overpowered build, let them use it. Right? It's not cheating, so let them use it. Let them flow through the bosses that way. Me, if it wasn't for them nerfing it, I would have tried the bosses myself. If I couldn't beat them, summon the mimic, move on. But because they nerfed the mimic to a degree, or to the extent that they did, you saw in the videos, the mimic never used the healing pot. It did use the what you call the meat that gives them more poise and able to resist a lot more stuff. But they didn't use any healing pots, and he barely rolled at all. He just took everything. He took damage from everything. So yeah, they dumbed down the mimic. So I will say that the majority of it is the fault of me, but some of it lies in the developer for being salty at people discovering ways to beat their bosses, so they just patch it out and say, okay, try and beat them now. But the reason I say it's my fault, most of my negative experience and frustration is my fault, is because it's on the player to know when to take a break. And a lot of times I felt like I'll need to beat this boss in this sitting. And if I don't, then, I'm not getting up till I beat him. And that is not the way, I feel like that's not the way to play any game, but it's certainly not a way to play Elden Ring, because it will kill your drive to do anything else. Well, at least I know it killed mine. Sometimes, especially with Malekith, in-game is what I'm talking about. With Malekith, the Black Blade, and then right after that, Gideon, right after that, Godfrey, right after that, Radagon, then right after that, Elden Beast. Instead of trying to, I got so upset at Malekith that I was just like, let's finish the game now. I don't wanna get up until I finish the game so I don't have to jump back on here anymore. And you should never play a game to the point where it gets you that angry, because then you ruin the experience for yourself. So the best thing to do at that point is just take a break and come back when your head is more leveled and not agitated or angry. Then you'll find yourself easily beating the boss. Like when I watch the video back now, um, I see that Radagon's attack patterns and stuff are easily telegraphed. The Elden Beast, the swings were so slow. Only the little star attack that follows you no matter where you go and lasts for like 200 minutes, that move is the only one that would really have given me a problem had I just calmed down and played it that way. So, I can't speak for anyone else, but I can say, for me, a lot of the frustration and negative thought process behind the game as far as content, in-game content, was my fault. Like if I'd have just taken it a little bit slower instead of trying to just get through everything, I would not have been as frustrated, and I would not have made as many silly, repetitive mistakes. So yeah, that's why I say the majority. I don't take away from the game for having the negative experiences with boss fights. And I mainly contributed to trying to beat every boss in one sitting, not all at one time, but whenever I reach a boss, my mindset was I'll beat this boss and then I'll get off. And it should have been, well, I'll make a couple of attempts. If I can't beat it now, I'll beat it later. So that's the first thing. Second thing was being too dependent on one build and not trying to adapt. Because there's some bosses, as you know, blood loss requires multiple hits, and some bosses won't give you that. So instead of trying to adapt or learning their pattern and dodging it, I just tried to strong arm my way through, and that created the frustration that made me not want to do anything else. But yeah, that's pretty much behind me, but I put that all on me. So overall, my experience, again, like I said, I've got over 200 hours in the game, and I still want to do a few other things that New Game Plus has allowed me to do, like finding out new endings. The ending I figured out was the generic one, where I restored the Elden Ring. I became the Elden Lord, and unfortunately for me, I became Marika's consort. But what I figured out is there's an ending that involves Ronnie, and there's an ending that involves Gold Mask, and I had no idea. And the reason I had no idea about Gold Mask was because when I first saw him, I thought he was an enemy. I saw him pointing at the capital city. I thought he was an enemy, and I struck him, and he disappeared. And I can't recall ever seeing him again. So I think I destroyed that quest line. But now in New Game Plus, I guess I can try that one too. So for New Game Plus, I've just been recording my boss fights, like rematches with Margit the Fell Omen, Renala, Radon, all of that. One thing I will say is I'm glad I got to fight Radon at his strongest. I know he got nerfed, and of course the developers are saying it was accidental, but I fought him before he was nerfed, so I'm glad I was able to beat him pre-nerf. But yeah, that's been my experience with the game. I had a blast. All of the negative, like I said, all the negative experiences were all my fault. Even if the developers patch stuff out, again, I still put it on myself. I don't put it on the game. So that's pretty much been my experience with the game. If I For a Souls game, I would say it's not bad at all. As far as, questing, combat, um, the only issue, well, I guess, yeah, we'll transition now into my issues with the game. And right off the bat, I will say this. I do not believe this game is difficult in the sense that people usually say games are difficult. I'm not. What I mean is, it's not Ninja Gaiden style, NES Ninja Gaiden style difficulty. The only reason this game is difficult is because the developers limit the player exponentially more than everything else in the game. The player is limited to one 3-swing combination. Regardless of what weapon you have, it's one 3-swing combination. Unless you wear certain armors that weigh you down so much till you can't move at a fast pace, you will get knocked out of any skill you do. Your poise is trash. But for enemies, regular enemies, sub-bosses, and bosses, they never run out of stamina. And the only way you can stagger them is to hit them enough times with a big enough weapon. But outside of that, you'll never, ever stagger the enemies. So that's my biggest issue with this game, is the players, in my opinion, I feel they're too limited. You can't say your game is hard. Like, for example, you can't say, well, no, let me not do that. Because from what I understand, this is the tradition, I guess you could say, with Souls games. So rather than say that the developers shouldn't do it, because they've been doing it for years apparently with Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne, I would say I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of being limited in how many times I can swing. And, I feel like the armors... Now, against regular mobs, the armor, held up. I could swing through getting hit sometimes. But for the most part, nah. Like bosses, none of the bosses, in my opinion, are hard. Except for Margit the Fell Omen. I feel like Margit the Fell Omen was the perfect combination of difficulty and challenge. And yes, I know people on the internet are beating... I've seen someone beat Millennia using a dance pad, like that you step on with the up, down, left, right arrows. I've seen people beat Margit the Fell Omen just using voice commands. I don't necessarily believe it. But I mean, I don't have any proof that's saying they didn't. So I'm not saying that it was a lie or it's fake. I'm just saying I don't believe it. Another issue I have with the game, or that I had with the game, was boss fights can become extremely tedious. And you saw that with Malekith. And what I mean, I'm mainly talking about late game bosses. If they have a second form, it is so tedious having to run through the first form again. Like, as many times as I fought Malekith the Black Blade, as many times as I fought Radagon, I didn't put in all my deaths against Radagon. If I had a death counter for this game, and I wish they'd have put that in there, like if they'd have kept the stat of how many times you died during your playthrough, I would guess I've died about maybe 800 to 1,000 times. But again, the late game bosses, when they have these forms, first form, second form, after you beat the first form and you get one shot by the second form, you have to run all the way back and beat the first form again. Another example is Radagon. Not Radagon. He's an example too, but Radon. When Radon knocked me off my horse with that one shot, he killed my horse in one shot and took off half my health at the same time. And then killed me again in the second shot. Then I finally managed to get the summons up and reach him to fight him. And then he kills me. Now I gotta run all the way back, try and summon all these people again, and then try and reach him again, and then beat him down to half health before he shoots off as a comet and comes back. And it's like, after about 35 deaths, again, and this is not, I'm not blaming the developers for this, I'm blaming myself. Because after about 20, the moment you start getting tired of having to beat the first form, I should have just took a break, played something else, or done something else, and came back. But because I didn't, I ended up just running in, carelessly trying to bring his health down to reach where I was before I died the last time. And that ended up creating a lot of frustration for me. And again, that's my fault, but I feel like, and I know you can't put save states in there. That would be kind of, I mean, to think about it, if you had a save, well, now, the only time I think a save state would work in this game is with Radagon and the Elden Beast. If you kill Radagon, I think that it's fair that when you go back, if you die on the Elden Beast, if you go back, you start off at the Elden Beast. I think that is how they should have played it, or how I would have preferred they played it. If you kill Radagon and the Elden Beast absorbs him and comes out and fights and kills you, instead of having to kill Radagon all over again, you should have been able to just go straight to the Elden Beast and fight it. Another issue I had with the game was, and again, this too can be contributed to the fact that I did not play any other Souls games, so I don't know how they were done in the past. But I feel like there was no direction as far as where the story was going. There was one time I had sat down and I wandered the lands for about 2.5 hours, and I could not figure out where to go. I had beaten the academy and gotten Renala's the ability to respec. I went through Caelid, I went through all the other areas, and I could not find out what to do. And when I went to the round table, Gideon told me to go to the capital city and request to be the Elden Lord. The two fingers and the finger reader told me the same thing. You've got 2 great rooms now. Go try and become the Elden Lord. I didn't know how to activate the lift. And I had no idea that there's 2 tokens you need that you have to put together to activate the lift, and both of them are in 2 random castles. Now they're not randomly spawned. I'm just saying they're in 2 castles in 2 different spots. One's in Caelid, the other one's somewhere near the starting area. And I had no idea that you had to go into these castles and get these coins in order to activate the lift. And so I think that what they could have done to improve that is tell you, okay, in order to get to the capital city, you need to activate the lift. And in order to do that, you need the 2 tokens from these locations. And you don't, as the player, you don't have to go there yet if you don't want to, but just you can know that they're there so that you're not wandering for hours looking for it. So that was another issue I encountered. And I guess another one of the issues I came across was the lack of explanation for a lot of things. When I reached the capital city, there's so many, like, even though I beat the game, there are so many questions that I have that are unanswered. And who knows, maybe you can answer them in the comment section. I'm not sure. Like, I was thinking about looking for a video that explains the lore from starting from Demon Souls up to Elden Ring, so that I can probably understand Elden Ring a little better. But one example is the round table hold. Once you reach the capital city, you want to become the Elden Lord. If you explore the city, you will come across an area in the city that's like abandoned. And that area is the exact replica of the round table hold. And if you go there, like, there are all the spots where people in the round table hold are, items are left behind. Like the smith guy, he leaves behind smithing items and stuff like that. So it left me wondering, why is the round table hold a replica of this place? Almost as if the round table hold is some kind of pocket dimension or something. It was never explained, or at least I never found an answer to that question. And yeah, why is it a replica? What does this mean? What does this mean for me and for all the people inside of there, all the other tarnished that are in there? Another question I had is why is it that Radagon and Marika are the same person? Because according to the lore that I've researched, now that I've finished the game, Radagon had children with Renala. So how is it possible that Radagon could be a being that had children with Renala, but is also Marika, the deity of the lands? That doesn't make sense to me, and that too has not been explained. And from the videos I've seen trying to figure out the answer to this question, they've all said nobody knows. It's just purely speculation right now. So the only person who knows is the one who wrote the story. And I'm really questioning whether or not even they know. Another question I had was, what are the two fingers? I know that the race of people that were to succeed Marika, like Ronnie the Witch and them, they got their own set of two fingers. But my question is, if that's the case, who's the two fingers in the round table hold? Who do they belong to? But yeah, where did they come from? Why is there a set of three fingers that belong to the frenzied flame? That was not explained. Another thing I wanted to know was, what was the point of the greater wheel? Like, pretty much seeing that the greater wheel is out there in deep space doing something completely different than minding the business of the lands between, what was the point in even sending anything here and creating the story in the first place, if the one who caused everything is not even in the picture? And like, who's the Lord of the Frenzy Flame? Apparently that's someone who's also a deity that's outside of the lands between, out in deep space, that is minding its own business. And then there's a deity that Ronnie apparently follows, that is out in deep space somewhere. So it's like, who are these people? Who are these beings? And then another question I had was about the paintings. You can find several paintings throughout the lands between, and they depict images of areas in the land between, but it's never explained what the purpose of that is. And I guess the one thing that I being someone, this is my first game, would probably never understand is how Elden Ring connects or relates to Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to watch like a explanation, a video pretty much explaining the timeline between Demon Souls up to Elden Ring to try and get an understanding of it. But those are the issues I had with the game. So there's not really anything. Only thing is really knocking is the story. The only issue I had with the game is the story. I really enjoy the combat. I love the parrying system. I love the katanas. I'm a huge fan of katanas. I wish they'd had something in there like nunchucks or a bow staff, but the katanas work fine. I enjoyed the gameplay. I enjoyed the exploration. I absolutely hated the story, mainly because I didn't understand a lick of it. I didn't understand what anything meant. I didn't even, throughout the whole game, 200 some hours in, I still don't understand why I'm there, except to get the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. And what am I going to do after I become Elden Lord besides sit next to Marika and watch people in the lands between? You know, to me, the only question I'm left with is what was the point of all of this? You know, like with Mass Effect, once Shepard finally, beats the Reapers, and even though the relays and stuff are destroyed, you ask the question of what's the point of all of this? Well, it's to preserve organic life. Now they can rebuild, and they can learn from their mistake and not create the Reapers again. But what's the point in Elden Ring? Once you become Elden Lord, whether or not I haven't seen I haven't unlocked the ending with Ronnie, so I don't know what that does, or with the gold mask. But with the ending I got, what was the point of the whole thing? Other than the journey of exploration, which I enjoyed, I did not see a point at all to the story. So to me, I really enjoyed the game, but the story was not there for me. Now, there is another thing I realized too before I close this video out. I realized that the story, and I realized it too late, I guess, but a lot of the story is explained, from what I understand, from what I'm understanding now, a lot of the story is explained in the items, like Radon's armor, Godfrey's stuff, Godric's stuff. A lot of it is explained in that. So I guess I don't know. I might take like an hour and a half, and because I got tons of weapons from tons of people. So who knows? But I don't know. I'd rather just watch a summary of it somewhere. I'm pretty sure somebody summarized everything up. But yeah, overall, my experience with the game was a good one. Now if I went back to complete the game, I could beat it without cheesing with the mage build. I'll probably record that too. And I'm pretty sure they patched out the Radagon glitch, where he just sits still and watches you shoot him with Azure, the Comet Azure, until he dies. I'm pretty sure that's been patched out. That I don't mind them patching out. But, other stuff where you find ways to win, like the Mimic, they shouldn't have patched that out. But yeah, so I'm not gonna bash the game aside from the story. The gameplay was a lot of fun. It was really challenging. There was a lot of funny times in it too. And I know I did not record a lot of it, and that's mainly because a lot of it was doing pretty much dungeons that are replicas. So if you do one dungeon with Smith and Stones, you've pretty much done them all. The even the enemies are the same; they're just a little stronger. If you beat one boss, a lot of other bosses in the game are reused as well. So if there was a boss that I came across, but it was pretty much an earlier boss with a different look, I didn't record that either. And I'm not knocking them for that too. The game is huge. So it would have taken a long time to try to get a unique boss for every situation. Let's be real. That's like trying to put every character from Marvel and every character from Capcom in Marvel vs. Capcom. You know, you can't put every single character in there. It's sometimes, and even with the ones you have in there, some of their movesets, you got to recycle some of their animations and movesets because that's going to be a lot of work otherwise, you know. And again, Elden Ring is a huge place. It's a huge, the Lands Between is a huge place. And it's a lot to explore. So it's understandable that they did not have a unique mob or unique boss for every single area. I definitely don't hold that against them at all. I think they did a good job with combat. I think they did a really good job with where they placed everything on the maps. I also love the puzzles you could do with where you had to find the animals, the astral animals, and hit them. There was one where you had to summon a specific creature in order to unlock a building. The puzzle aspect of it was good too. Like I said, I enjoyed everything about the game except the story. And the reason I say that is because I hate not understanding the story. But then again, that too, I guess you could put on me because I didn't know that the story was put in the descriptions of the weapons and the armor and the runes and all of that. So my view on that could change if I went and read them all. But I'm not going to go read them all now. And one more thing, I probably won't. I'm not saying a definite not, but I probably won't. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Depending on the story plot, because of course if there's something sacrilegious in there, I'm not going to touch it. But a sequel to Elden Ring or another Souls game in the Elden Ring universe, I would tackle it differently than I did this time. Only in the boss fights. Because I don't know what got over me. I just felt like I can beat this boss in one sitting. And sometimes I just couldn't. Like Margit the Fell Omen, I couldn't beat him in one shot. I could not beat Malekith. Yeah, I did beat Malekith the Black Blade in one shot, well, in one sitting, but I'm not proud of it because I really should have taken a break. My favorite boss in the game, my favorite boss to fight in the game was Margit the Fell Omen. I keep getting them mixed up because one is Margit the Fell Omen and one is Morgott the Omen King. But my favorite boss, like I said, the one boss I felt like was done perfectly was Margit the Fell Omen. My least favorite boss to fight is that stupid Erd worm. It's a deformed Erd thing that shoots fire, and once his health gets low enough, it will explode. Like it'll have this flame explosion, and then it'll have fire properties to all of its attacks. That's probably my least favorite boss to fight, and it's just a sub boss, so it doesn't really matter. Second favorite boss to fight was the Crucible Knight. I feel like the Crucible Knight could probably destroy a lot of main quest bosses. I really like the design. I like their attack patterns and all of that. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video of me and my experience with Elden Ring. Let me know what you think. If you agree, now I'm pretty sure you're going to disagree about the story. And again, like I said, that's on me not knowing anything about the story. I wasn't aware that the story was put in the items and stuff like that. But as far as everything else, I even like the fact that one thing I will mention, because it's not very prevalent in a lot of games today, and this is also a good trait with I forgot the name of the game now, but it's also on Returnal, and that is there is little to no vulgarities in the game at all, or profanity in the game at all. There is one character that supposedly is a cameo from Demon Souls, or I mean not Demon Souls, Bloodborne, that's in there, some kind of merchant. And he has a pretty bad mouth, but that's only if you kill him. You know, if you don't kill him, he doesn't really say anything. But I found little to no profanity in the game, and I think that's a very good trait to have in your game. And like I said, it's in Returnal also. Returnal has a few, but let's just put it like this. It's not on the level of Sifu and Dying Light 2. So that is a good trait that it has also. I'm not a fan of the gore, but you can even tone that down in the options, which is another good thing too. I wish all game developers would go the way of Epic. Was it Epic Games? Whoever made Gears of War. I believe it was Gears of War 3 or 2, where they started to add a option to remove profanity. Like you bleep out profanity, and it'll pretty much, bleep out the majority of the profanity in the game through that filter. So I think, and I know it's extra work, and in that sense I'm in the minority, but who knows? Maybe there'll be a game company out there that will consider us, who aren't too fond of a lot of profanity, a lot of gore, and needless violence, like striking a bush and it bleeding, or striking a stone golem and it bleeding. Not that that's in Elden Ring. If you get the reference I'm talking about there, kudos to you. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Again, I enjoyed the experience. Whether or not I play another Soul, I will not play any of the previous Souls games, because the actual Souls veterans are saying that this game is much easier than Bloodborne, Dark Souls, and Demon Souls. So I will not be playing any of the previous Souls games. But if any more should come out in the world of Elden Ring, then I may give them a shot. I will say that. But yeah, do I recommend the game to people? Absolutely. It's definitely a game that you can spend a lot of time in. So long as you don't care about the story, or you don't mind like going on the internet and finding charts and stuff to where this connects to that and it connects to that, because from what I understand, like a lot of stuff happens before the game even starts. But in the game it just says, okay, you're tarnished. In the beginning, the lands between was ruled by Marika, and everything was cool. Then Marika shattered the Elden Ring and then vanished, and then all of her children were slaughtered one at a time. But there's still hope, because you, along with the Dung Eater, the Gideon the All-Knowing, and all these other people, can come back and become Elden Lord and restore the Golden Order. That's all they tell you. But there's so much more that happens before that even starts. And like I said, right now I'm watching some lore videos, which is where I'm understanding all of this is happening. And they should have found some way in the game to explain it, for those of us who haven't played Souls games before. But yeah, like I said, that's going to be it for this video. The next game I'm looking at right now is from the makers of Until Dawn, and I believe it's coming out next month. It's called The Quarry, and it's a horror game. So to prepare for that, I'll probably replay Until Dawn so I can get used to the system again and how it works. But yeah, to give it, before I go, enjoy the game. Really enjoyed it. Had a great experience. I recommend it to those who want an adventure game where you can use a variety of weapons, a variety of builds, and New Game Plus. I forgot to speak on New Game Plus. New Game Plus is pretty much the same as the first one, except you get more souls when you kill stuff now. Well, I'm sorry, you get more runes when you kill stuff now, as opposed to the your first playthrough. And everything on the map that you opened up in the first playthrough is opened up in the second one already, except your Grace campsites. So you got to go back and activate all of those. So I'm on the first New Game Plus, and the only reason why I'm doing that is because I want to see if I can get Ronnie's ending and the Gold Mask ending. After that, I'll probably be done with Elden Ring. I'm not trying to get all the legendary weapons and all that stuff, no. So yeah, that's going to be it for me. And like I said, if you do see any more videos of Elden Ring, it'll be in New Game Plus, with me trying to get more endings. There's also another thing I want to see too, and that is if I can kill Malekith during the Deathroot quest. If you kill Malekith during the Deathroot quest, will he show up at the end of the game? Or will he just run away so that he'll be at the end of the game anyway? So that's another thing I wanted to figure out too. And I'll probably see if I can do that. Hopefully it doesn't activate the death rune and one death equals the end of the game. You have to start over from the beginning. That would be very annoying. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And until next time, I hope you guys will consider subscribing. There are other playthroughs on the channel as well. I just finished Ghostwire Tokyo, and I may do my thoughts on that video as well. On that game as well, because I have so many questions about that game. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. And I hope you guys will continue to stay blessed and continue, most of all, just in the time we're living in now, keep your spirits high and stay blessed.